Welcome all to the session on pipeline as code using Jenkins. Myself, I am Anju Dominic from Logics. In this session, I'll be introducing you to Jenkins. I'll be covering some of the basic concepts in Jenkins, and we will be doing a hands-on example with Spring Pet Clinic application. After that, we will move to activity. Before we start with Jenkins, let's discuss about continuous delivery approach. Continuous delivery is a software engineering approach in which the team creates software in a short span of time, yet ensuring quality. I'll tell you with an example. Suppose you are working on a particular project. You have some issues to fix. What you do is you will modify the code. After modifications are done, you will build the code. Then you will run tests on the code. You will be doing unit testing, integration testing, or end-to-end testing. After the testing is done and everything is fixed, we will move the code into production. How much do you think it will take to complete this cycle? 3 to 4 working days? Consider a situation where we are automating the entire cycle. Building, testing, deployment, everything is automated. That is what is happening in continuous delivery approach. They'll create, or in this approach, we create a software in a very short span of time by creating an automated production line. So the next important term that you need to understand in continuous delivery approach is continuous delivery pipeline. Pipeline is nothing but steps through which your code flows before it reaches production. Consider the previous example itself. I mentioned about the build stage, test stage, deployment stage. This could be the pipeline for running the application. So Jenkins helps us to automate this pipeline. Automate the building, testing, and the deployment process. Let's do a hands-on on creating pipeline. So for that, I'll be using a Spring Pet Clinic application. This application is readily available in the internet. You can go to Spring Boot GitHub and get the Spring Pet Clinic application. So I'll be writing a pipeline for this application. I'll be building, testing, deploying this application. So how to write a pipeline? The best way to write a pipeline is to create a Jenkins file. We create a file called Jenkins file and write the code inside it, pipeline inside it. This code is kept aside with your source code repository. Then what the Jenkins will do is it will create a job that will run this pipeline or Jenkins file. What is the job? Whatever you do in a Jenkins application is a job. If you build an application, it's a job. If you test an application, it is another job. So now I'm creating a job that will run the pipeline. If you're not able to understand the flow, it's fine for now because this is what we will be doing in this session. You'll be doing it from the scratch. So I have already forked the Spring Pet Clinic repository. So I have the source code ready with me. I have cloned it to my local repository. So there I am going to create a Jenkins file. Let's go to Visual Studio Code. You can use any editor. I'll be using Visual Studio Code. So I have my Pet Clinic application here in this particular path. Now I need to create a Jenkins file in this path. So I'll create a file and name it as Jenkins file. Now I'm going to write the pipeline inside this Jenkins file. Since it is a pipeline, I'll be writing inside pipeline block. And I'm going to write each stages that are there on the pipeline. Let us go back to our project. So if you're working on a project and you want to build an application, what you do is first is you check out the code. Let's do that first. So I am going to create a stage. So there will be many stages. So all the stages will be defined inside this. I'm going to write my first stage as checkout. And then inside that I need to write the steps. What are the steps I need to flow and I need to go through in this checkout stage. So I need to check out the code from the Git. I have the repository in my Git, so I need to check out the code from Git. I'll give the path for the repository here. So I have created a simple Jenkins file with a single stage, checkout stage, that will check out your source code. So I'm going to add this Jenkins file to the GitHub repository. Let's go and see here. I'll be using git status to know the status of the file. Jenkins file is modified. So I'll give git add. Git commit I'll doing, so added Jenkins file. Now I need to push this to the GitHub repository. So I'll use the command git push and give the repository credentials. So I have my Jenkins file in my repository path. Let's go and see that. Yes, you have a Jenkins file now here. Along with your source code, you have a Jenkins file. Now I need to go to my Jenkins application. Hope you all have installed the Jenkins application and was able to launch the application. So I'll be launching my application. I have put my Jenkins in one of the cloud servers. So I'll be running the Jenkins from there. Now I'm going to create a job. So I'll give a name. Pipeline Pet Clinic. So since it is a pipeline, I'll create a pipeline project. Now what this will do? We are worried about this area alone. Since we are concentrating on creating a pipeline with Jenkins file, I'll select this option, pipeline script from SCM. SCM is source code manager. It could be Git or SVN where the source code is kept. So pipeline script from SCM. So Jenkins file we have kept in the source code repository. So I'll be using that script from the Jenkins file. So here I need to set the path for the path of the Git repository. So here repository name I need to give. So let's get the repository details. And paste it here. So you have created a job to run the Jenkins file. One more thing you need to note down here. I have selected a lightweight checkout here. So if you run this job, what happens is that first checkout will be a checkout from the SCM that will check out only the Jenkins file. I have not written this stage, it will be done by the job itself, Jenkins itself. So if you have selected lightweight checkout, the first stage will be the checkout of the Jenkins file alone. Then Jenkins file, all the stages in the Jenkins file will be run. So I have the Jenkins file ready now. Now I have the Jenkins file with one stage called checkout in the GitHub repository. So all the path is set now. We have a job to run the Jenkins file and Jenkins file is there in the GitHub path. Let's do a build now and let's see what is going to happen. If you give build now, it will build the Jenkins file or run the Jenkins file. There is some error. Let's see what is the error. We'll go to console output to see. Oh, there is some missing agent. Yeah, correct. So we'll go to the source code. So I have run space pipeline. Now I need to write agent. What is this agent? Agent is where the pipeline will be run. Since by default I have only master on my Jenkins, I'll be running the pipeline on the master. So I'll just again add this code to the GitHub repository. And I'll push this to the GitHub repository path. So I have modified the Jenkins file and put that into the GitHub. Now I need to run the pipeline. We'll go to the project, build now again, and let's see what is going to happen. Is there any other error? There is no error, I guess. We have two stages here. First is the declarative checkout SCM where the Jenkins file will only be checked out. Then you have the checkout state that we have given in the Jenkins file, which will actually check out the source code. So this is a simple pipeline. Now let's see what we need to do again. We have source code now. Now we need to build it. Build the application. Spring Pet Clinic application. Spring Pet Clinic application is written in Java and built with Maven. So I may require to install Maven. How can I ask Jenkins to do that? Let's go to the dashboard of Jenkins and go to Manage Jenkins and go to Global Tool Configuration. You have installation set up here. See Maven installations. I have already set up the Maven installation here. I have given a name for the installation which is M3 and I will be installing 3.3.3 version. You can select any of the versions available here. So if you give a directive to install M3, that means it will install version 3.3.3 of Maven. So that I have done. Now let's write in the pipeline to install Maven. Let's go to the So what I have done is I have gone to the dashboard of Jenkins and manage Jenkins. You have a global tool configuration. After the global tool configuration, you will have Maven installation. I have already given the name M3 and the version what I need to install. You can select any of the versions you want from here and it will install M3. So whenever I give a directive to install M3, it will install version 3.3.3 of Maven. So I have configured Jenkins to do the install. Now I need to write that in the pipeline in the Jenkins file. Let's go to the Jenkins file. So here you have stage checkout is finished. Now you need to build the application. So you need to install Maven. So first we will install Maven. So how to ask the Jenkins to install Maven? There is a directive called tools. If I give Maven M3, it will install version 3.3.3 of Maven. Let's try to run this. Again, I'll add this to GitHub path. I'll push this to GitHub. So I have pushed the code to GitHub repository. Now I am going to the Jenkins. Let's go to the Jenkins and go to our project pipeline pet clinic and try running build now. So now what we are having is we are having a checkout stage and also a tools install stage. Apart from a checkout SCM stage where the Jenkins file will be checked out. See, everything is run fine. You have declarative checkout, then tool install and the actual checkout. Now we have everything ready for the build. So the next thing that we need to do is to build the application, pet clinic application. Let's do that in the pipeline. Let's go to the pipeline. So I have a stage checkout. So now I need to add a new stage called build stage. So what I will be doing is build. and I need to give the steps. What are the steps needed to run the build? So what I need to give is a mvn compile, mvn clean compile. So this is the command that I need to run to build the application. Let's add the Jenkins file, modified Jenkins file, to the GitHub repository. And I'll push this to the GitHub repository. So what I have done is I have created a new stage where I am going to build the application. Now let's go to the Jenkins and again run the application. Again I'll give build. So it will take some time, since we are going to build it for the first time. It will take some time for building. Let's see how much time it takes. So checkout is complete. Now it's going to build. Yes, build is complete. So if you want to see the logs, you can go here and see the logs. See, mvn has run the build, so building is successful. Another way to see the log is here, console output. That will show the entire logs for the entire states. So now build state is over. Now what is the next thing that you need to do? You need to package the code and create a jar file. Let's do that using pipeline. Let's go to our pipeline. And I'm going to add another stage, which is package stage. I am going to add the steps. Sorry, before that we have just completed only the build. You need to test the build. So before going for packaging, you need to test it. So I'll be using a test stage and I'm going to write the steps to test it. So mvn test. So this will actually do the testing on the Spring Pet Clinic application. We are not worried about the technologies, how to create the test suite and all. Just understand that this will be creating the test results, or test will be run on the application. And where will be the report kept? Since we are using JUnit, application is using JUnit, all the reports after running the test will be in a .xml format. That we will be keeping in a particular folder generated called Surefire reports. Let's do that. So this is where our reports will be there after running the test. So the steps are complete now. Let's put it into the GitHub. Let's push it to the GitHub. So I have pushed it to the GitHub. So I have a Jenkins file with new stage in it. Let's go to our Jenkins application and run the job. Again, I'll give build now. So again it will build, and then you will have an additional stage called test. Just wait for some time to finish off this job. So test is almost done. It's almost complete. It will take some time because we are running it for the first time. Yes, it's done. So testing is done. Everything is successful. Let's go and see the logs. You have the reports ready, recording test results. So it's done. So now you have a new stage test. So see, in the previous execution we did not have the test stage. So the time for the stage is empty. Time for the stage state is empty in our previous build. So we are ready to package the application. Let's create a new state or stage to package the application. Let's go to our code. We are going to create another stage, and that is package. So MVN package will package the application, and after that there is one more thing that you need to do. You need to fingerprint the artifact. Why you need to do that? This is to fingerprint, or this helps you to understand which version of the files went into that build. So that is mainly fingerprinting. So you are going to package the application in this stage. So let's add it to the GitHub. I'm going to push it to the GitHub. sorry, invert parser name. So I'll just try once again. So I have put it into the GitHub repository now. Now let's go to our Jenkins application and again run it. Let's go to our Jenkins application and again give build now. So you will have an additional state here for packaging the application. Let's wait for some time. It will take some time to finish this job. So what we have in the pipeline is a checkout stage, build stage, test stage, and now a package state. Now the next thing that you are going to do is deploy it. Deploy the application into your production server. So for showing you, I'll be deploying it into a different server. So after finishing this test, we'll be going to do that deployment. That is the next stage that you are going to write. It's almost complete now. It's still building, it is taking some time. I'm sorry, it's still packaging. Yeah, it's over now. So you have the package stage, successful packaging, everything is done now. Now the next thing is deployment. I'm going to deploy it into a different server. So I have already configured SSH in between my Jenkins and the new server. So if you want to deploy your application in a new server, set up the SSH connection first. You can use it by SSH key generation and generate a password and do a passwordless. Let's go to our code and write the pipeline. So the next stage is deploy stage. And I'm going to write the steps. So there is an option in Jenkins where you can give a button or you can give additional human intervention point. That is, before deploying into the server, you need approval from some person. If a concerned person approves only, it can go to the production server. So you can add that also in the pipeline code. You can do an input function that will approve the deployment process. Let's do that. So if you give do you approve the deployment, only if I give proceed, then only the deployment will happen. So that is how the pipeline is written. So now the actual deployment, where I need to copy the target jar file to the server where I am going to deploy. So I am going to secure copy the jar file to deploy 1 at the IP address. Deploy 1 is the username that I have created. This is entirely different system, and I am going to copy this jar file to this particular path and then launch the application. You can launch the application by using Java jar. So here you are going into the new deployer server or production server, and you are going to do Java jar command that will launch the Spring Pet Clinic application. So now I am going to add this into my GitHub path. So this I'm going to create the credentials. So yes, I have put the modified Jenkins file with the deploy stage into the GitHub path. Now I am going to the Jenkins and going to build. So again you will have one more state, deploy state. So again wait for the job to complete. So what we have done in the deploy state is you are deploying the code application jar file to a new server and trying to deploy it there. So like this you have completed the pipeline as such. You have checked out the code, built the code, tested the code, packaged the code, and then deployed the code. This is how you write the Jenkins file to create an automated pipeline. This will reduce the effort and time done by the developers. Let's wait for this job to complete. It is in the test stage now. So test after packaging, it needs to go to the deploy state. Hope it will be over soon, since this is the second time we are running. Yes, it's over. Now we are going to do the packaging. And in the deploy stage you will be asked, do you want to approve the deployment? And if you give proceed, then only the actual deployment takes place. You will see how that input comes now when you reach the deploy state. Yes, now we are in the deploy state. See here a black dot comes which is asking for the approval for the deployment. If I proceed only, the actual deployment will take place. So I am going to give proceed. So I am going to give proceed. And let's see the console output. So this is the big console output. You will go to the end line. Yes, now let's go to the new server. See, this is the server IP address where I have deployed the pet clinic, and under this port you have the pet clinic application deployed. So this is the entire flow for the pipeline. You have checked out the code, built the code, tested the code, packaged, and then at last deployed the code. This pipeline may vary depending upon your project. In some of the projects you may have, before deployment, you may have another stage called pre-prod stage, where there will be a pre-production environment. So the application will be deployed in a pre-production environment first, and then you may do a pre-prod testing in that environment. Only if everything works fine, then only the application is put into the production server. So there will be slight variations for this pipeline depending upon your project. This is how you automate the pipeline using Jenkins. Let's move to the activity that needs to be completed for aligning the certificates. So this is the activity that you need to do. I have already kept a repository in my Quadralogics path. I have already given the path here. So you can fork the repository from this particular path, clone it, and then write a Jenkins file to deploy the pet clinic application. For easiness, you can deploy it in your system itself. You don't have to connect to another server. You can do it in your system also. And then share the repository details with the Jenkins file via email to anjudominic@quadralogics.com. So that is all for this session. Hope it was useful to you. Hope to see you all for the next session also. For any queries related to workshops or hands-on, do contact info@quadralogics.com. Hope you have a nice day. Thank you, all of you. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much.